My name is Charlotte Whitmore. I'm 38 years old. And until recently, I thought I understood exactly how my life would unfold. Last Tuesday around 7 in the evening, everything changed. My boyfriend, Ethan Mercer, 35, dropped a bomb in the middle of what should have been an ordinary night. We were standing in the kitchen. I was making pasta. He was sitting at the counter, staring at his phone like he'd rather be anywhere else. Looking back now, that part should have warned me. The distance, the indifference, the way he smiled at messages that clearly had nothing to do with me, but after 10 years together, routine can disguise almost anything. Then, without even looking up, he said quietly, "I'm moving out tonight. Don't contact me again." I stopped stirring the pasta. For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard him. But no, his duffel bag was already half-packed beside the island. He had planned this. I looked at him. He still wasn't looking at me. "Okay," I said. That finally got his attention. His eyes lifted. Surprise flashed across his face. "That's it?" he asked. "You said you're leaving. I thought you'd at least ask why. What difference would that make?" He frowned. "I need space." "Charlotte." I nodded toward the bag. I noticed something about my calmness seemed to irritate him. Maybe he expected tears. Maybe he expected a fight. But I had spent 10 years loving this man. If he wanted to walk away, I wasn't going to chain him to the kitchen floor. "I'm serious," he said. "I can see that. I'll get the rest of my things later." I simply nodded again. The silence between us felt heavier than any argument. Then he grabbed his keys and walked toward the front door. No hesitation. No apology. No goodbye. Just before leaving, he added, "Please don't contact me. I'll reach out when I'm ready." Ready? As though he alone controlled when our story started and ended. The door closed. And suddenly, the house became painfully quiet. For 10 minutes, I stood there staring at the boiling pasta water until it spilled over the stove. Then, something unexpected happened. The numbness faded, and clarity arrived. Ethan wanted freedom. Fine. But freedom didn't come with unlimited access to my bank account. I turned off the stove, opened my laptop, and started making decisions. The platinum card attached to my account, canceled. His secondary visa, canceled. The monthly transfer I had been sending to his personal account for years, canceled. His freelance photography jobs covered some expenses, but certainly not the lifestyle he'd become accustomed to. Vacations, designer sneakers, weekend trips, the expensive hobbies. Most of it had been possible because of me. Not because I wanted control, because I loved him. But love and obligation were two very different things. I left his phone line active. I wasn't cruel. I simply stopped financing someone who no longer wanted to share a life with me. That night, I ate burnt pasta alone. It tasted terrible. And somehow, I slept surprisingly well. 3 days passed. The house felt strange at first, then peaceful. I cleaned closets, watched shows Ethan hated, got rid of clutter. For the first time in years, everything felt quiet. Then, at 9 o'clock Friday night, somebody pounded on my front door. I looked through the peephole. Ethan. His hair was messy. His face looked panicked. I opened the door. "Ethan." "Charlotte." He sounded breathless. "My card was declined." I blinked. "Which one?" "The platinum card." Realization hit him immediately. "You canceled it." "Yes." His mouth fell open. "But I was at dinner." "Dinner?" "Yes." "With who?" He hesitated, then said too quickly, "Vanessa." The name caught my attention. Vanessa Reed, his ex-girlfriend from years ago. The woman he once told me had become just a friend. I remembered how often her name had appeared lately. Little things, random messages, inside jokes, late-night texts he claimed were harmless. Something cold settled in my stomach. "And Vanessa didn't pay?" I asked quietly. His expression hardened. "That's not the point." "No. I think it might be... Charlotte. This is embarrassing. You moved out?" That doesn't mean... It means exactly what you said. It means... His voice rose. My visa isn't working either. I know. And the monthly transfer didn't come through. Also correct. He stared at me in disbelief. You can't do this. I already did. We've been together for 10 years. And 3 days ago you told me not to contact you? His eyes became glossy. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered him sitting in our kitchen, smiling at his phone, while ending our relationship without even looking at me. The sympathy disappeared. I need help. Charlotte. Then ask Vanessa. His face twisted. She's just helping me find somewhere to stay. Something about the way he said it made alarms ring inside my head. Not because I thought he had cheated, not yet, but because he sounded defensive before I'd even accused him. You're being cruel, he whispered. No. Ethan. I looked directly at him. I'm respecting your decision. He stared at me with anger and disbelief, as though consequences had somehow betrayed him. Then the tears came. Real tears. Please, he said. Just for a week. I shook my head. You closed this door. Ethan. He wiped his eyes. You'll regret this. Maybe. But at that moment, I regretted something else, far more. 10 years spent loving someone who had already packed his bags before telling me goodbye. I slowly began closing the door. I'll get a lawyer. He snapped. Then get one. The door shut. I heard him shouting outside. Then silence. I stood alone in the hallway, heart racing, hands trembling, and for the first time since he left, I had a terrible feeling, because the panic in Ethan's eyes hadn't looked like heartbreak. It looked like something else. It looked like someone whose backup plan wasn't working. Over the next week, I discovered something strange. The breakup itself wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was realizing how quickly some people forget who carried them when life was easy. After Ethan's dramatic appearance at my door, I expected silence. Instead, the chaos intensified. First came the phone calls to my office. My receptionist, Rebecca, informed me Monday morning that Ethan had called 3 times already. He said it was urgent. She told me carefully. Financially urgent. She blinked. Actually, yes. I almost laughed. Rebecca lowered her voice. He sounded upset. I imagine he is. I never called back. Then came the messages from mutual friends. Most of them had only heard Ethan's version. Charlotte. What's going on? Ethan said. You cut him off. Please talk to him. He's struggling. I sent everyone the same polite response. Ethan ended our relationship and moved out voluntarily. I respected his wishes and adjusted my finances accordingly. This is a private matter. Most people backed away immediately. A few didn't. Those people quickly revealed which side they had already chosen. I blocked them. Life was complicated enough. Then came the person I dreaded most. Ethan's older sister, Madeline Mercer. If Ethan possessed entitlement, Madeline possessed enough for 3 people. She called from an unknown number Tuesday night. Normally, I would have ignored it. Something told me not to. Charlotte. She snapped immediately. What exactly do you think you're doing to my brother? I closed my eyes. Good evening to you too. Madeline. This isn't funny. Neither was Ethan leaving. He needed space. He got it. You're starving him. I nearly choked. Starving him, last I heard? He was having dinner with Vanessa. Madeline actually scoffed. Vanessa is helping him. She's not rich. Interesting. Not helping because they were together. Helping because she was available. The wording stayed with me. Then perhaps Ethan should increase his photography hours. He's used to a certain lifestyle. I stared at the phone, in disbelief. Used to a certain lifestyle. The lifestyle I had paid for. The vacations. The designer clothes. The expensive hobbies. Apparently, those things had become rights, instead of gifts. The standard you describe, I said calmly, was possible, because we were building a life together. Exactly. No. Madeline. Pestince. She immediately switched tactics. He made a mistake. That sentence bothered me. Not because she said mistake, because she didn't say heartbreak. Not pain, not regret, a mistake. As though Ethan's biggest problem wasn't losing me. It was losing comfort. You need to support him, she continued. I laughed softly. Support him through what? Independence. Her voice rose another octave. You're acting vindictive. No. I'm acting single. Silence. Then came the threat. He'll take you to court. I've already spoken with an attorney. That shut her up for exactly 3 seconds. Then she launched into another rant. Before finally hanging up, I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, I arrived home from work and immediately noticed something strange. The flower pot beside my front door had been moved. Most people wouldn't have noticed, but I always placed it slightly to the left. Now it sat perfectly centered. A chill ran through me. I checked the security camera footage, and there he was, Ethan, standing outside my house while I was at work, trying the front door, trying the back door, walking around the property, then calling someone. 20 minutes later, Madeline arrived. The two of them stood outside discussing something before finally leaving. I sat frozen on my couch. That hurt more than the breakup. Not because he had tried to enter, because after 10 years together, I had never imagined I'd need protection from him. The next morning, I called a locksmith. $200 later, every lock had been replaced. That evening, Madeline called again. How dare you lock Ethan out of his own home? My home. He still has things there. And he can arrange a collection. He came by yesterday. I know. Silence. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. He thought you'd be understanding. Understanding. As though entering my house without permission was reasonable. No legal right exists without consent. Madeline, you've changed. No. I looked around the quiet living room. I finally stopped pretending. She screamed several insults before hanging up. The next day, Ethan sent me a payment request. $500. Message attached. Emergency. Please help. I stared at it for several seconds. Then declined it. 5 minutes later, another message arrived. Charlotte. Please. Another hour later, he left a voicemail. His voice sounded broken. Please just help me transition. Transition. To what? Life without me. I deleted the message. But that night I cried. Not because I missed him. Because I finally understood that the man I loved no longer existed. Or perhaps he never had. My attorney friend, Amelia Grant, listened to everything over dinner. She nearly spit out her wine when I mentioned the payment requests. He's testing boundaries, she said immediately. Holfium. I feel guilty. Why? Because he sounds desperate. Charlotte. Desperate people ask for help. Entitled people demand restoration. That sentence stayed with me. Before leaving, Amelia gave me one final piece of advice. Document everything. So I created spreadsheets, screenshots, call logs, voicemails, payment requests, everything. Because something told me this wasn't over. And apparently I was right. About 3 weeks after Ethan moved out, a mutual friend accidentally revealed something interesting. Vanessa wasn't thrilled. Apparently, Ethan had arrived expecting the same lifestyle he had with me. Weekend trips, expensive restaurants, designer purchases. Vanessa couldn't provide any of that. She rented a modest apartment, worked long hours, paid her own bills, and according to our friend, arguments had already started. For the first time since the breakup, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just sadness. Because Ethan still didn't understand, the problem had never been money. The problem was that he thought love came with unlimited access and no responsibility. But the biggest surprise arrived one rainy Friday evening. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. There was silence. Then Ethan whispered, Charlotte, I think I made a terrible mistake. Before I could answer, another woman's voice sounded in the background. Vanessa. And she didn't sound happy. 2 months after Ethan walked out, life had settled into a new rhythm. Quieter, simpler, strangely peaceful. I had expected endless drama. Instead, most days felt calm. The legal process moved forward, exactly as Amelia predicted. Ethan hired an attorney. I hired one properly. Her name was Judith Lawson. Sharp, experienced, and impossible to intimidate. The first letter from Ethan's attorney arrived full of dramatic language. Emotional damages, financial hardship, super obligation. It almost sounded as though I had abandoned him. Judith read it once and smiled. Interesting fiction. Her response was professional and devastating. Ethan had voluntarily ended our relationship. He had moved out. His personal accounts remained untouched. His property remained available for collection. All voluntary support connected to our shared life had ceased after his departure. Nothing illegal, nothing abusive, nothing unusual. Reality tends to be less dramatic than entitlement. After that, the threats became smaller, but the rumors grew louder. Apparently I was controlling. Apparently I had financially abused Ethan. Apparently I had thrown him into the street with nothing. The stories kept changing. Some versions painted me as cold, others painted me as manipulative. I stopped trying to defend myself. People who knew me didn't believe those stories. People who wanted gossip would believe whatever entertained them. Madeline took things even further. She began posting vague quotes online. Things like, "Real men deserve loyalty. Some people only love when they're in control. Karma always finds selfish women." Everyone knew who she meant. I simply took screenshots and moved on. The most ironic part, she never offered to pay Ethan's bills herself. Judgment was free. Support apparently wasn't. Eventually, Ethan arranged to collect his belongings. Judith insisted somebody be present. My friend Amelia came. Judith sent a paralegal. I wanted witnesses. When the cars arrived, I almost didn't recognize Ethan. He looked older, tired. His confidence had vanished. And beside him stood Vanessa. Seeing her in person felt strange. For years, she had existed only as a name. Now she stood in my driveway, looking exhausted. The atmosphere between them felt uncomfortable. Not romantic. Not happy. Just strained. Madeline was there too. Naturally, she looked ready for war. Ethan barely met my eyes. "Hi, Charlotte." "Hi, Ethan." 10 years together, reduced to that, the collection started peacefully. Until Ethan began pointing at things that weren't his. My coffee machine. "No," I said calmly. "Mine." "The television." "Mine." "The patio furniture." "Receipts say otherwise." Each time he argued. Judith's paralegal calmly documented everything. Eventually, Ethan stopped trying. Vanessa remained mostly silent. But once, while loading boxes into her hatchback, I overheard her mutter quietly, "I told you this wouldn't go well." The exhaustion in her voice surprised me. For a brief second, I almost felt sorry for her, because suddenly I saw something I hadn't seen before. Vanessa wasn't the villain. She wasn't some evil woman who stole my boyfriend. She was simply the next person expected to rescue him, and judging by her expression, she was already drowning under the weight. The real drama came from Madeline. She pointed toward a decorative mirror. "Ethan always loved that." I smiled politely. "My late mother's gift." Madeline crossed her arms. "You're really keeping score." "No," I answered softly. "I'm keeping memories." Even Ethan looked embarrassed. As they packed the final boxes, something almost heartbreaking happened. One suitcase burst open. Clothes spilled everywhere. Shoes scattered across the driveway. For several seconds nobody moved. Then Vanessa sighed. Not angrily, not dramatically, just tired. Very tired. She knelt and began picking everything up. Ethan joined her, and suddenly, I remembered us. Years earlier, building furniture together, laughing over small disasters, planning futures, dreaming about forever. A sharp ache hit my chest. Not because I wanted him back, but because I finally accepted that the man in front of me wasn't the person I remembered. Maybe people change. Maybe they reveal themselves. Either way, the result is the same. Eventually, the hatchback closed. Madeline climbed into her car without saying goodbye. Vanessa thanked the paralegal. Then she surprised me. She walked over and quietly said, "For what it's worth? I'm sorry." I looked at her. She looked genuinely sincere. Before I could answer, Ethan appeared beside her. His eyes were red. "Charlotte." I waited. He swallowed hard. I never thought things would end like this. Neither did I, but I simply said, "Neither did I." For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he asked the question I had secretly expected for weeks. "Do you think we could ever—" He couldn't finish. He didn't need to. I smiled sadly. "Ethan, you didn't just leave the house." His shoulders sank. "You left us." Tears filled his eyes. Real tears. Not panic. Not anger. Regret. But regret arrives after decisions, not before them. Vanessa quietly touched his arm. He nodded. And they walked away. That was the last time I saw him. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that things with Vanessa eventually ended. Apparently, once financial reality arrived, so did constant arguments. Ethan found full-time work, started rebuilding his life. Madeline moved on to new targets. And me? I sold the house. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. I moved closer to work and bought something smaller. Something peaceful. Sometimes I still feel sad. Not because I regret protecting myself. Not because I miss Ethan. But because grieving wasted years is its own kind of heartbreak. Still, those feelings pass. Because I learned something important. The best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's peace. It's sleeping without anxiety. It's never begging someone to stay. It's understanding that love without respect eventually becomes sacrifice. Ethan wanted freedom. I gave him exactly what he asked for. All of it. And in the end, the greatest gift he unknowingly gave me was the chance to rediscover myself.